Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I am going to show you what might be the most brilliant move I've ever seen. Getting a brilliant move on chess.com is a moment for every single chess player. Some of you have never gotten one. Some of you have only gotten one, and you probably framed it up on your refrigerator. Some of you have gotten many. But every single brilliant move is unique. The algorithm judges it differently. Today's is spectacular. And also a friendly reminder, I am currently in London. I'm coming home in 2 days, which is why I'm in a hotel room. Also, we have 50 tickets added to the November 21st evening signing here in London. It's my last one. It's with Waterstones at the St. Pancras train station. We've added 50 more tickets. Some of you have reached out to me asking for tickets, and I got you 50 more tickets. So you're welcome. And also, I really appreciate your support. So here we go. We are in the European Team Championship in Montenegro. We're actually in a hotel room in London where it gets dark at 3 p.m. But, you know, I'm going to go to dinner soon. Our protagonist is Stavroula Tsolakido versus Natalia Buksa. Stavroula is from Greece. Natalia is from Ukraine. This is one of the most unbelievable, brilliant moves I've ever seen in my life. The game began with e4. Black responded with the most combative opening, the Karl Sicilian defense. Sicilian defense. White plays knight f3, knight c6. White is trying to play the open Sicilian with the move d4 on the third move. Black now already has multiple branches, but Black can play a6, d6, e6, g6, or knight c6. Now White chooses whether to play this or actually uncork a Rossolimo, a more close positional approach. d4 takes. Black now has many choices again. Black plays knight f6, knight c3, and now basically, Buksa has a choice now, one final choice of where we're going. Are we going to a hyper-accelerated dragon with bishop g7? Are we going to a classical with d6? Are we going for e6, the 4 knights, or are we going for other sidelines, or are we going for the Sveshnikov, Magnus Carlsen's favorite opening? Except maybe his favorite opening is the Catalan? I don't know. I haven't asked, but I will when I see him in Toronto. The idea of e5 is to fight for the center, but also play d6, give up the light squares, but be very dynamic and very aggressive. Knight b5, d6 prevents the knight from going into d6 because it's protected, and now White chooses the two main lines, which are bishop g5 and the more modern knight d5. Knight d5 was played many times by Fabiano Caruana versus Magnus Carlsen in their World Championship match in 2018. Also, let me know if you like this more calm demeanor. I can't really yell too much because it's late, and I feel ridiculous yelling in a hotel room when I have neighbors. Frankly, I don't even know if they can hear me recording. If they can hear me recording, they should knock on the wall. That would be very interesting. Knight takes d5, e takes d5, knight to e7, and White plays c4. And now what White is going to do is White is going to expand on this side of the board, oftentimes with a queen, sometimes with pawns, and then you actually rook lift over here in many cases. Black will try to play f5, not f6, f5. Black will try to get these pieces out. Can't tell if somebody knocked on my door or if I'm imagining things. Black will try to get these pieces out, castle, kick out the knight, and be very happy. Position is very imbalanced, and in that World Championship match, frequently, Magnus was attacking Fabiano on this side of the board. Knight g6, queen a4, threatening a double check, a very brutal double check, and now inducing bishop d7. So you force Black, I mean, you don't really force Black to do anything, but you play bishop d7 if Black doesn't want to lose, but now this pawn is weak and this pawn is not defended, which is why White plays queen b4, threatening to win a pawn, which would be a big deal, and Black develops the bishop and keeps moving. Now, I think here, technically, White could do this and try to make a draw because of queen d7. There is knight c7, which wins a rook because the queen can't take. And then I wonder if Black would have played queen b8 or would have made a draw. Queen b8 is another way to defend the pawn, which keeps the game going. I don't know. But she played bishop f5, and then it was h4, h5. So White tried to play h4 to play h5. Black played h5, so White couldn't play h4. Simple enough, right? White wants to target this knight on g6. Anytime you have a knight on g6 and b6, which is that square, you can target them with the flank pawns, and it's really helpful because you can advance the pawn all the way while attacking the knight, and then even further to the 6th or 3rd ranks, which will then damage your opponent's structure and make it difficult for them whether they've castled or not. The other side about playing this move h4 is that, oh, I'm out of breath. if h5, the g5 square is secured, right? So if black plays h6, white cannot play bishop g5, but black is not going to have a very comfortable life for that knight. So bishop g5, we've already talked about the move queen b8, and black is a moment away from playing the move a6, which would kick out white's knight. You will notice from the time spent of the players, nobody is thinking. Modern day chess is rooted in preparation. Both sides are very, very well familiar, not just with the opening theory, meaning the moves that they don't need to think about because they know are the best moves and they already memorize them, but they are also familiar with famous games played in these positions by studying games of Magnus, Fabiano, myself. I haven't played this line for either player, but you know, myself. And they know the middle game plans, right? So black now plays a6. 3 minutes spent on this move. This might actually already be the moment that black is trying to remember, but black plays a6, now kicking out the knight. The knight goes back to c3, and now black plays queen c7. So seems like, again, black gets the queen out, everything is defended, white's position is under pressure. It's a very, very dynamic game. The pawn structure in the center, imbalanced. The positioning of the knights and the bishops, imbalanced. The space advantage, imbalanced. Your elo, frequently imbalanced. g3 played by white. So supporting everything here. Maybe some ideas in the future, controlling f4, maybe you'll bring the bishop back at some point. Like, for example, black offers a trade of the bishops, and white says no, right? Neither player has thought. Both sides have now made 19 moves. Actually, white has made 19 moves. Black has made 18 moves. Black plays this move e4 after 5 minutes of thought, which means, in all likelihood, she's on her own, or she's still memorizing, or she went to the toilet, right? Like, you don't know. You could be bluffing. If you look at the top computer line, it is e4. And there's a reason why black doesn't castle. It's because you'd lose that pawn that you put on h5, which is a big problem. So black plays e4 with a very simple idea of trying to make more progress into the position, right? Now white has a big decision. Which way do I castle or do I not castle at all? If you just pass back the move, black plays knight e5, whoops, knight e5, then black puts a knight here, or here, you have to trade your bishop, then this pawn is no longer under attack, so black will castle, then black will play rook c8 and try to go here. So that's the idea. So white castles, and black plays castles as well. 7 minutes of thought, so on our own. And essentially, black is saying, you know what? Since you committed your king here, this pawn is no longer a problem because taking it will be too dangerous. Could black have just played knight to e5? Yes. Why she didn't? Don't know. Haven't spoken to her. Knight to e5 does not blunder a pawn. And then, for example, if white, let's say, played rook c1, black could then castle. You say, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that this pawn is hanging, number one. And number two, computer here says queen c8 for some reason, where you try to trade these bishops and then get in with the queen and then get in with the knight and try to mate on the light squares. Because again, white pushed 3 pawns on dark squares in front of the king. And now you're putting the king there. So you bought an apartment that had holes in the floor. Like, you can't be mad that you're tripping every now and then, right? So castles, castles, and white says bishop takes h5. Now you will also notice Stavrula spent 28 minutes on castling. She did not do that because she didn't remember the rule. It's a very big moment in the game, and if you don't remember the best move here and you play a very sharp and complicated opening, frequently you will find yourself in a situation you gotta operate on your own. And sometimes when the stove is too hot and you're not an experienced chef, you gotta think about it, right? You don't have time. And you really don't want to castle this way. I mean, you can, but it's just kind of gonna play directly into black's bishops, right? You gotta think about what the opponent wants. At the end of the day, that is chess, and it's not poker. In poker, you can't see what cards people have. In chess, you can see what pieces people have. So, right? Let's go back. Castles, bishop takes h5. Calling the bluff and saying, Natalia, you're trash. They don't actually talk to each other, and if they would, I don't think chess players are brave enough to say such things to each other's face. Chess players would say things behind each other's backs. They're kind of like Reddit keyboard warriors. But no, I don't think she said such a thing. Actually, they asked me this question recently. I did another Wired video. Some of you might have watched the previous one, Chess Pro Answers Questions from Twitter. And people were offended I was called a chess pro, even though I'm technically a professional in chess. I just don't play it, but I don't know, whatever. People get offended about everything. And in that video, they asked me, can people trash talk in chess in the second episode? And I said, well, not really. So that's all to say, I don't think she took her pawn and trash talked her, but she did take her pawn. And basically now black goes and attacks this pawn. And black's follow-up is, if let's say white plays b3, black will put the knight here, then black will go here and try to checkmate. Like that is, and black does not, it does not feel like black is a pawn down. I mean, if anything, it feels like white is a pawn down or the position's equal. So knight to e5. And in this position, white plays bishop d4, right? And so the idea is basically, look, I know you're going to come in. If you go here, I just move my queen. It's not complicated. And if you play knight to f3 check, it is a fork, but then I take the knight. And yes, in a perfect world, the queen there is mate, but how exactly is that happening while I target your bishop? Right, and let's say black says, well, it's just queen d7, easy. Okay, but then I'm going to try to trade queens with you, right? Or I'm just going to win your pawn. Okay, now black has to play defense. Well, now I've doubled my rooks. Okay, well, black's just going to play defense. Yeah, but I mean, at some point, you're not going to get the queen there. Like, even if you go, oh, I'm so sneaky, ooh, king h2. Again, these people are not rated 800, so they will not just play bishop h5, get forked, and then blunder checkmate in one move, right? I mean, it's just mate here. That's not what we're dealing with. They are slightly stronger than you, just slightly, you know, because you're all 2,000. No, they are much better than you. Knight to d3 is played, and white basically says, I don't care, right? I don't care, and I'm going to rotate my queen around. And now things go crazy. And in games where things go crazy, your chances of playing a brilliant move are much higher because they're sharp, they're complicated, right? They are theoretical. Did I say theoretical? Not theoretical. They are complex, right? So in this position, black sacrifices the bishop. Whoa, for a pawn. What? And the idea of the sacrifice is to open up white's king, win that pawn, threaten the king, not right away, and threaten the bishop right away. If white doesn't take, the computer thinks sacrificing a knight back is white's best move. And then after this, throwing in this move, attacking the knight, and then after this, and only this, taking the bishop back so your queen can rotate over, which is bananas. I mean, that is crazy. The other idea is to go f3 and try to just basically like give up everything, but in the process of giving up everything, winning back the center, right? So black will play like bishop h7, and these pieces are just very weak, and actually it is white who is creating the winning threats. White is a human being, though, and not stockfish, so she just takes the bishop because sometimes in chess, like a free bishop is a free bishop, and it doesn't come with consequences. You know, in life, some things are free, but they come with consequences. So are they really free? I don't know. Some things are just straight up free, right? Like back in the day in New York City public school, you could eat the free lunch, but you might poop yourself for like 3 days, or you might die. It's free. But is it free if the cost is your health? I don't know. Schrodinger's health. Anyway, that's all to say that black here played queen e7 and threatened the pawn on h4 with a powerful bishop, with the knight threatening to come back here and deal some damage. Now white has to play a good defense, right? And white plays knight e2, which has two ideas. Number one, you want to go protect the king. The horse has to protect the king. Number two, the queen now has a little bit more access. This knight is a really, really good roadblock, and it's defended not once, but twice. And it's really hard to get rid of. And getting rid of it like this might make sense if the other side is stupid, but she will take the bishop, so you don't really have the time. So queen e7, the knight undevelops, and black plays queen takes h4, threatening the bishop on h5, looking to play bishop h3, queen g5, queen g2, looking to play knight f4, looking to play knight f2, looking to play knight e5, knight f3, etc. But I don't know the ideas, I'm not a chess pro. And now white plays knight g3, targeting the bishop and simultaneously defending their bishop. Big moment. This is a fake threat. It's a fake threat because the bishop is defended by the knight too. So for example, if black plays rook e8 and white goes here, after we just repeat the position, white is actually lost. White cannot stop knight f4, and if white tries to stop knight f4, then I just go to e5, which is significantly worse. So yeah, that doesn't quite work, right? And in the game, instead of playing rook to a8, black went knight f4, which is also a very logical move. This would be checkmate. Excuse me. No, it wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't be checkmate in 1. It would be checkmate in 2, but it is protected. But you know, you've got all of these ideas swirling, and not to mention the bishop is hanging. And now at this point, something wild happens. Here, Stavrula finds an idea that this low-level stockfish cannot even yet see, which is kind of wild. In this position, Stavrula took this. But I just said it was not a really good decision because then queen h5, and then probably you lose, right? Knight takes f5. But notice, look, did you see that? Now the computer's going to claim it saw it the whole time. Knight g3, so browser-based stockfish on a low depth, which is what most of you operate on, it will not see the idea after, like, it still doesn't see it, and now it's like, oh, why? Well, after knight f5, queen h5, which I've just explained to you does not work because of the threat on the knight, etc. You know, black is threatening knight e2, black is threatening queen g4, and you cannot play queen to g3. I mean, it looks like a great move, but it simply hangs a queen. You can't do that. Well, the position is winning because, as it turns out, knight takes f5 sets up one of the most disgusting, brilliant moves that I've ever seen in my life. And she saw it from a distance. Stockfish on this crappy depth did not. Her opponent did not. In this position, Stavrula, co, lakido. Do? I want to say do, co lakido, but I don't know. Don't speak Greek. She played the move queen to g3. That's a cool move. And she is winning. And you might say, Levy, you just said, yep, queen g3. And I will give it a little brilliant symbol of my own. Queen to g3. And that makes the whole idea work. And you go, well, show us what well, queen g3 threatens checkmate. It walks into a queen fork, just a pure queen fork, just knight e2. And at the end of it, this is hanging. So what's the point? Here's the point. Her opponent has to play knight e2, right? Queen g3 is brilliant, and black has no choice, because if black takes the knight, they get mated. If black tries to stop mate with the bishop, they get mated. If they try to stop like this, then knight e7, and I just win the knight, and I'm up 2 pieces, and I mean, mate is coming. So knight e2 check, what is the point? Why is this such a brilliant move? It walks and literally allows a queen fork. You bring your king up, and suddenly things become more clear. You will connect your rooks, and they will go to the h-file, where the queen is the last defender of the king, which is very, very bad. The pawns, knights, and bishops and rooks should be defending the king first. The queen needs to go deal damage, okay? And the problem is that when your queen gets taken, you don't take the knight. You don't take the knight. You play a Zwischenzug, an in-between move. Because if you take the knight, black will block everything and run the king this way. But before you do that, despite 3 things being able to take this knight, you play knight e7 check. And black is lost. Because black's king is forced to the edge of the board, where not only will white end up winning the queen, this checkmate with a rook and the king cut off by a knight is Anastasia's checkmate. Which would have been ironic if black was Anastasia Buksa. That would have been crazy. She's Natalia Buksa, so it's not as crazy, but it's still quite crazy. And the game is over after you play f take g3. White emerges from this game with rook to h1 threatened. And the craziest part about this is black can go here. It makes no difference because you have to go back and then you lose your queen. And the point is, this endgame is lost. It is 2 pieces for a rook, and it's over. Black then has to run out to g5, and you take on g7, and you win. 2 pieces for a rook with multiple pawns is a winning endgame, and the game ends like this. Black plays king to h6, trying to save the queen. Rook to h1, queen takes h1, rook takes. She does, in fact, go to g5. Bishop takes g7. Rook e8, so now black, it looks like, has 5 pawns each. It should be completely fine. Because white, how is white going to save the knight? Well, this entire brutal king walk ends up with the king on g5, and the knight is defendable via tactics. Instead of physically protecting the knight, we defend the knight with rook to f1. Rook e7 is no longer possible because of bishop f6, and the knight is protected because the rook will be lost. Rook to f1, but I have really bad news for you. Not only does rook f1 defend against rook e7 and a fork, rook takes c7 is the best and only move for black. Black has to go here and end up in an endgame down a bishop to go on to lose in 20 moves. Why? Because if you don't take the knight and you play pawn to e3, you fail to realize your king is in a cage. Your king is in a cage, rapidly depleting oxygen levels. Bishop f6 check. If the king goes to g4, rook f4, and this. If the king goes to h6, here. If the king goes to h5, rook h1, and rook h4. And that is the story of one of the most absurd, brilliant moves I have ever seen in a game. Playing a move that doesn't sacrifice. It doesn't sacrifice. You know, in chess, you bulldoze a wall and then you sacrifice your... This move is so foul. You play this move, your opponent must come to you. They must play knight e2 check. They have no choice but to walk down this line, which is so absurd because then you throw in knight e7, an intricate detail. If this was a puzzle, it would be so high rated because after queen g3, you have to throw in knight e7, which many people would fail. Many people. And I know there's going to be some of you watching like, this wouldn't be a tough puzzle, Gotham. That's what you sound like, all right? When you sit there and you try to tell me how it is, you become the internet's chess teacher or the second largest, you know? You go off and teach people. This would be a crazy, because the idea of this is sublime. Sublime idea where the king is cut off on the edge of the board. And not just that, to make it this far, and the only survival move is rook f1, but it's not even about survival. Bishop f6, it's about winning. Crazy. And this was a part of a ridiculous run by Stavrula in the European Team Championship. She almost got a 7-round norm to become, I don't know if a grandmaster norm or something. I mean, she made like 3 draws and won 5 games in a row or something. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And yeah, she was queen g3 might compete for move of all time in that Frank Marshall game where he played queen g3. I think that move was a bit better, but still brilliant stuff. What more can I say? If you're watching this in the first day it comes out, get some tickets, go to the event in London. Walk-ins are also accepted. But very limited capacity, and you will not be promised a spot, depending on how many people show up. I will see you all tomorrow in London, and I'm flying home after that. So, that's all. Get out of here.